Thank you, members. Please welcome the Mayor's Chaplain, Sue Fair, who will be saying prayers this evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Lord, for our city councillors. Thank you for their hard work and sacrifice. May you continually bless them. May you generously give to each of them wise and discerning hearts to skillfully govern the people in our city. Give the mayor, city leaders, staff and city council wisdom so that they may solve the problems that they face, seek justice and distinguish between right and wrong, and bring order, stability and prosperity to all our communities in this city of Peterborough. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you. Please be seated. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I would like to welcome members, those in the public gallery and those watching on live stream to this meeting tonight. I would also like to welcome Councillor Andrew O'Neill to his first meeting of council following his election on 12th of February, and I'd like to congratulate you. I will now hand over to Simon, the Democratic and Constitutional Services Manager, to go through some housekeeping points.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Can all those present please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent? In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the doors at both ends of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. As per normal rules, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Mayor has confirmed that she is happy for members to stand or remain seated, whichever is the most comfortable when addressing the chamber. All votes will be taken via the electronic voting system. If a recorded vote is requested, this will be taken in the normal way. There is a points document. If you wish to raise a point, please read the pink document and address the Mayor accordingly, stating which point you are raising. Finally, I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please make sure when you speak, you can be clearly heard through the microphone system, and remember to turn off your microphone at the conclusion of your contributions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I will now ask the monitoring officer to give any apologies for absence that have already been received.
Thank you, Mayor. The apologies have been received for the following councillors: Bisbee, Rangzeb and Knight.
Thank you. Can I now ask if any members present are aware of any other apologies for absence not read out by the monitoring officer? Councillor Jamil?
Councillor Sabir, still unwell.
Thank you. We'll make a note of that. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, a general dispensation has been granted for all members should they have any pecuniary interest that enables them to debate and vote on the budget item later in the agenda tonight. Any member who is more than 2 months in arrears with council tax must declare this now, as this will affect your right to vote on the budget item. Are there any further declarations of interest from members this evening which are not already recorded separately on their individual register of interests? No. Thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. I would like to propose the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on 21st of January 2026. Councillor Shabina Kayam, I understand that you are happy to second?
I am happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If there are no objections, I would take the minutes as agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 4, Mayor's announcements. The next Mayor's event is this Friday, the 27th of February, at the Golden House Chinese Restaurant. This is a meal to celebrate Chinese New Year. A few tickets still remain, and if you are interested in attending, please contact the Mayor's office. This is going to be a fantastic evening. We've got entertainment with a singer and a lion, not a real one. And it should be a good night. Wonderful food, because it is an absolutely fantastic restaurant. Thank you. I invite Councillor Hemmarge, Chair of the Constitution and Ethics Committee, to announce the results of this year's Civic Awards. Thank you.
I'm going to stand up for this because I think it's fair and right and proper. So, at the Constitution and Ethics Committee on the 2nd of February, it was agreed unanimously to award the following nominees Civic Awards to the following categories. Community Involvement Award, Alan Gage, Alex Ford, Anita Rowcliffe, Ayaz Nawaz, Bilal Asim, Colin Harrison, the Crocus Calf, David Woodbridge, Hector Patel, Georgina Parrott, Harry Machin, Ivana Banilava, James Hopgood, Marco Semente, Martin Baxter, Nick Howes, Mina Tank, the Wonky Donkey, Tatinda Jettle. Thank you. Contribution to art and culture, Chris Lovell, Dorita Tandos, Mark Hermandaz, Steve Jason, Sula Hussein, MBE. Sport Award, Dave Simpson, Ian Buskill, Michelle Mills, Peterborough Phantoms Ice Hockey, Pip Gardner. Young Persons Award, Beatrice Wellbond. And the Lifetime Achievement Award is Faustina Yang and John Richardson. All representatives will be invited to receive the awards at the presentation evening, which will be held from 6 p.m. on Thursday, the 14th of May 2026, in the engine shed at Sam Martin's house. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, leaders' announcements. Councillor Shabina Kayam, I understand you wish to make an announcement this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do. I'd like to begin tonight by welcoming Councillor Andrew O'Neill, who has been elected to represent Fletton and Woodston Ward. I'm sure he will work in the spirit of collaboration and know that this administration champions the values of our council, which we expect all members to abide by, both online and offline. As usual, I'd also like to extend a big thanks to our elections team for organising the by-election and wider council staff who also supported. They are now focused on planning for May elections, as we all are. This week, the government announced its significant investment in the SEND system from the Ormiston Bushfield Academy in Alton. I welcome the government's white paper, Every Child Achieving and Thriving, particularly the significant investment in the SEND system, which will put children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities at the heart of national policy. We recognise that many families in our city face challenges, including financial pressures, cultural nuances and varying levels of deprivation, and that these challenges can make it even harder for children with SEND to access the support that they need. The commitment to strengthening local provision and making mainstream schools more inclusive is particularly vital for Peterborough, as it helps us break down barriers and ensure that every child, regardless of their circumstances, is given the best possible chance to succeed. We look forward to working with government, schools and families to deliver these improvements for our children and young people. I'd also like to let members know that one of our employees recently attended a royal reception at St James's Palace in London to celebrate the often unsung heroes of local government. Marie Hennessy Quentin, Team Manager for Children in Care, was one of more than 700 local government staff who met His Majesty King Charles. Marie was chosen to attend because of her leadership and support around children in our care. However, the reality is that she is one of many people across our council who work incredibly hard in challenging circumstances, and this recognition is for all those unsung heroes. A big well done to the newly qualified social workers recently graduated from our Social Work Academy. All 12 have successfully completed their assessments and supported first-year employment. I can also let members know that this week we hosted our final monitoring visit by Ofsted, which focused on our front door and the partnership response to children where neglect is a feature. I will report back once we know the outcome. We've made lots of exciting announcements in recent weeks, including the submission of an expression of interest for the UK City of Culture 2029. The bid is led by the Council, working alongside community leaders and both our MPs, and supported by partners including the Peterborough Tourist Board and Peterborough Positive. We are a city with extraordinary heritage and depth. Putting forward an expression of interest for UK City of Culture 2029 is about refusing to let our qualities go unnoticed, backing our communities and creativity, and setting Peterborough on the path to be recognised for its true potential. Earlier in the month, I sent a joint letter to Matthew Pennycook MP, Minister of State for Housing and Planning, alongside MP Andrew Pakes and CPCA Mayor Paul Bristow, regarding setting up a new mayoral development corporation. This would allow us to transform our city centre, unlocking its next phase of growth, working cohesively and at pace to transform our economic future. On that note, we are currently asking people how they feel about Peterborough City Centre and what experiences they'd like to see over the next 20 years. The project aims to bring forward a vision to create a truly inclusive city centre, attracting residents, visitors, and new businesses to invest. An online survey and a series of pop-up events and stakeholder workshops are being held to gather the views. Find out more on our website. I'd also like to highlight the consultation into local government reorganisation launched by the government. The consultation runs until Thursday the 26th of March, and I'm calling on your support to encourage as many residents, businesses and other interested parties to get involved and have their say. And finally, a big well done to our team behind our Second Chance uniform shop, as the scheme has been shortlisted for the Local Government Chronicles Environmental Services Award. This fantastic project was launched by our recycling education team and youth MP Daniel Debeau and continues to grow. This is an example of best practice in our city. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Opposition group leaders, I have granted you all 2 minutes to respond. Firstly, I invite Councillor Wayne Fitzgerald, Group Leader for the Conservatives.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Always a pleasure to be in full council amongst colleagues to hear interesting debate and some feisty, shall we say, language now and again. But I'm going to be very brief tonight because we've got a heavy night with the budget ahead of us. But I will start by just agreeing with the Leader of the Council on all the successes she's mentioned in her Leader's speech tonight. We too in the Conservatives would echo that. But I can't let it slip by that actually there's been a big U-turn by the government and we are now facing elections again in May, which is a good thing because the elections were, make no doubt about it, cancelled. And that came from the words of the lips of Keir Starmer, if you notice on the TV in the last week. And the decision to do that was a locally led decision by the Labour Party, aided and abetted by the Liberal Democrats and several members of Peterborough First. So we've got that out. It's a matter of public record. I don't really expect any argument. But again, I will add thanks to the team and welcome also when I heard Andrew O'Neill is joining us. I thought, what a broadcasting giant, coming to Peterborough to enlighten us with that political prowess. I thought, marvellous. And then I saw his picture. And I realised it's not the same Andrew O'Neill. But anyway, Andrew, welcome anyway. And I'm glad you're here tonight because you've had probably 2 weeks to get to grips with the budget. So I'll be delighted, because we're not going to sign up to the budget until we've heard the words of our first Reform councillor, who said, quote, "I'm going to cut the waste." Great. Well, I'm looking forward to where that waste is and the vanity project. So I hope you've got a list. When we come to the budget debate, we will be all ears, hanging on your every word before we decide to support, abstain or vote against. Because I think 2 weeks, you've had 2 weeks, come on, it's long enough with that big party behind
Councillor
you.
Fitzgerald, 2 minutes is up.
I'm done, Madam Mayor.
Sum up,
so I'm literally done. I'd like to get to the budget as quick as we can, then we can all go home. Thank you very much.
So, thank you. Finally, I invite Councillor Heather Skipdead, Group Leader for the Greens.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to welcome the new councillor and endorse the leader's comments regarding we hope he will work in the spirit of collaboration and values of our council. The Green candidate came a close second in the by-election, and as a small party, we're proud of this achievement. We're also very pleased to hear of the increased SEND investment. This is a much needed and affects so many families in our region and across the UK. All children should have the possibility to achieve their potential. I see it as a step forward that mainstream schools will become more inclusive for these children in the same way as children with English as a second language are now fully integrated into mainstream teaching, when previously this was not the case. It's great news that we have a cohort of fully qualified social workers, which is much needed. Congratulations to them all. The bid for the City of Culture 2029 is a very exciting prospect. And although Peterborough has often had a bad press, there are so many aspects of the city and its outskirts that can be promoted and improved to showcase what is great about this city. I've lived here for 13 years and always thought the city centre very attractive, the Lido, Cathedral, etc. And that there are many aspects of the city and beyond which could be promoted further and which many are unaware of. I would like to finally add that the Green Group are pleased and relieved that elections will be going ahead on May the 7th, because democracy matters. It gives residents their voice back and is part of local accountability. The Greens fought for this from the start. When asked our view, and I have to say I was not impressed at the amount of emotional arguments regarding council services used to attempt to change our view. It begs the question how they can now run adequately since elections have been reinstated. It is good that they've been reinstated, but we're obviously all going to need to play catch-up on campaigns. The original decision also caused understandable concern and disappointment among residents. Restoring elections is welcome, but rebuilding trust will take time. This situation could have been avoided, as there were many members from this council who also believed we should have elections as part of the democratic process. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, just in time. Agenda item 6, questions for members of the public. No questions have been submitted by members of the public for this meeting. Agenda item 7, petitions. As no petitions have been presented to this meeting by members of the public or members of the council, I will move on to item 8. Agenda item 8, exclusion of press and public. Members, I propose that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for part of item 9, executive and committee recommendations to council, on the grounds that the report and appendices at 9B and appendices at 9C contain exempt information under paragraph 3, part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended. The public interest test has been applied to this information, and it would not be in the public interest for this information disclosed as it relates to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Can I please seek a seconder for this proposal? Thank you, Councillor Harper. Noted. Is it agreed, or shall we now move to the vote? Agreed. Thank you. Once we reach item 9B, I will ask for the public and press to leave us. If that is agreed, I will carry on. Thank you. Agenda item 9, executive and committee recommendations to council. We are asked to consider 4 recommendations from the executive this evening. A. Executive Final Budget 2026-2027 and Medium-Term Financial Strategy 2026 to 2029. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, as Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I certainly would. Before I delve into my speech, I want to provide an overview of the budget for members this evening. And before I start, I'd like to thank all members, officers, and the leadership team that have worked hard and contributed towards the budget setting process for this year. And in particular, the members of the public who took part in the consultation, because I think we've had the highest number of consultation leads in that context. I would like to particularly reference members on the FSWG who have worked closely together to debate proposals and provide additional financial oversight throughout this year. Those that took part also in the joint meeting of the Scrutiny Committee, where we received questions on areas including council tax support, highways, resurfacing, investment in libraries, leisure, and disability reablement provision. It was pleasing for members to be able to reflect on how refreshing it was to see a balanced budget after more than a decade of needing to make significant savings. And all those who participate and engaged in many of the budget briefings from officers since last summer over what has been and continues to be a period of substantial change. Members, this year's budget has been probably one of the most turbulent that I have seen during my 17 years as a councillor. This year has continued to bring challenges for the council's finances, evidenced by the forecast overspend in the current year. However, we do now have hope for some improvement in this overspend as our efforts continue right up until the end of this financial year. However, there is now light at the end of the tunnel, and for the first time in many years, we have a balanced budget in each of the next 3 financial years. That is something to be proud of and is a result of much hard work. We always believed that implementing a fairer funding review would be beneficial to this council, even back in 2018 when we launched our Stand Up for Peterborough campaign. This review has been long anticipated, with years of underfunding taking a toll on our financial standing and, more fundamentally, the services we were able to deliver to our residents. Since the government launched its consultation on this last year, there have been many different versions of the financial models available. However, until the settlement was finally released in December, we could not be sure of exactly what that meant for us. The result has exceeded our expectations. It is the most positive budget Peterborough has had in more than a decade, and is largely the result of fairer funding review finally being implemented. As members, we will set out the budget papers. This improvement is tapered over the next 3 years of the settlement. We won't see the full benefits of the updating funding arrangements until probably around 2029. We have to plan to be able to bridge that from now until that time safely, which I will speak about shortly. Because of fairer funding review, Peterborough will now see one of the largest increases in funding in comparison to other councils. This will allow us to move full steam ahead with our plans to improve our financial resilience and deliver on the priorities set out in our corporate strategy. More crucially, it will allow us to invest in services including a new swimming pool and a leisure centre, additional social workers for children, AI and digital to make services more accessible for public, a new crisis and resilience fund for supporting people in crisis and focusing on reducing poverty, delivering a plan to enhance our city centre so it's a safe and vibrant, and making investment in Families First programme to support families. Members, we also recognise and appreciate the support that is planned in respect of dedicated schools grant deficits. However, we remain incredibly concerned at the national debt in this area and how it continues to increase in a manner that is unaffordable to the public purse. As I've stated, the funding improvement from government will be implemented in 3 years, and whilst the medium-term outlook is positive for 2026-27 will pose its challenges. The robustness statement written by our Chief Finance Officer reinforces this message, and despite the improving picture, 26-27 will require the continued focus and dedication of all us to ensure it's delivered within the financial envelope and that you as a council will be setting. Our strategy to deal with the circumstances we have found ourselves is to reset our finances as a result of the settlement and the savings we have made previously and continue to make. We are making positive steps, rebuilding our reserves, which has been a direct result of this action this Council has taken during the past year to stabilise our position. And finally, as we enter preparations for LGR, we will seek to transition and redesign to support that process. With our reserves remaining low, we have taken proactive measures to protect this. This includes extending our flexible use of capital receipts policy, and we will continue to fund £1.8 million investments in service charge and transformation for 26-27. Further to this, we made a request to government for exceptional financial support in relation to the exceptional pressures of 4.7 in 25-26 and 5 million in 26-27. And on Monday, we received confirmation that this request had been approved in principle, providing the necessary support to safely bridge us through the short-term challenges and to ensure that our reserves position continues to improve to a more sustainable level. Also included within the budget before you is our corporate strategy, which reflects recent changes, including to reflect the impact of local government reorganisation and outlines investment of our priorities for the coming year. As part of this strategy, there will be times when we must invest to achieve savings and to integrate, to preempt measures across all services. This is crucial, particularly in supporting vulnerable community members, and is also important when it makes practical and financial sense. The corporate strategy and this budget both align, and with this approach allowing us to move forward with the outcomes for our residents. The report, I'm sure you'll all agree, is extremely comprehensive, covering revenues, reserves and capital programme, sales, fees and charges and treasury management, to name just a few. I hope members have taken the time to read these in advance of tonight's meeting, which leaves me only to ask for your approval, enabling us to set a legal and balanced budget for this year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Shabina, will you second the motion and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do second the motion and I reserve my right to speak later on in the debate.
Thank you. Does any member wish to begin debate? Councillor Orms.
Cool, that was a shock. Everyone turned this way, didn't they? Evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For too long, this council, and most importantly, the residents it serves, have battled against the tide of underfunding. The implementation of the Fairer Funding Review finally acknowledges our city's true needs, correcting years of disparity. I'm delighted to see that Peterborough will be receiving one of the largest core spending power increases of any local authority in the country over the next 3 years. Finally, some light at the end of the tunnel. With this truly wonderful news, we could be forgiven for taking a moment to celebrate. However, for numerous reasons, now is not that time. We must be under no illusions. This coming fiscal year is likely to be the most important financial year this council will face until it ceases to exist. We continue to carry a heavy debt burden. We continue to see relentless demand on critical services, and our reserves remain in a perilous position. Even with fairer funding and our provisionally approved request for extraordinary financial support, residents are still being asked to shoulder a 4.99% council tax increase as part of today's proposals. I believe these papers and the plans within them confront the realities of our position head on. However, for us to have any success in achieving these plans, we must engage collaboratively and scrutinise constructively throughout the coming financial year. We have a genuine chance of moving from a position that often feels simply like managing decline to a position of investing in our services and building a more resilient financial future. I will conclude by simply stating what I believe to be the facts of the matter. If we rise to the challenges of this coming financial year and deliver on the proposals in front of us, we will take a monumental leap towards a brighter financial future. If we fail, with local government reorganisation looming large, and with it the ability for us as a council to make any meaningful financial decisions, this failure will form a big part of this council's legacy. The stakes are high. We must be diligent, we must be proactive, and must not take our eyes off the ball. Fairer funding and extraordinary support are only a life jacket for this coming financial year. We are not safely back on land just yet. I am planning to vote for this budget, but I do so in the hope that we go into it with our eyes open, without any hint of complacency. And with this said, I look forward to listening to the rest of this evening's debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. This budget is stronger than previous budgets we have seen here at the Council. The Greens have taken part in FSWG, questions have been asked and decisions scrutinised. We have been assured that there are no hidden shocks in this budget, and we hope that remains the case. The officer teams have been sure to be transparent and open in this process with us. This budget benefits greatly from fairer funding, and there are no current cuts that we can see to frontline services or community facilities. However, there are still community centres and libraries on the asset disposal list, with decisions on these unknown to date. I would urge the administration to move forward on these matters so we can inform and hopefully reassure residents. I'm also concerned about our council tax exceptional hardship fund, which at 67% of delivery is lower than all our neighbouring authorities, and would ask that this is an area to focus on and improve on over the next municipal year. We still have concerns over our reserves, which remain dangerously low, and we want to know how confident are we of hitting the target of 45 million over the next 3 years in terms of our reserves. Residents will be asking questions around another year of council tax increases. However, we need to communicate the fact that our council tax levels remain the lowest in comparison to neighbouring authorities due to being kept historically falsely low. Overall, this is a budget that feels forward-thinking and more sustainable than ever before. I personally will be supporting this budget, although I can't speak for the rest of my group. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Have we any more speakers? Oh, Councillor Fitzgerald.
I thought Councillor Hogg beat me to it, but I'm happy. I'm happy to, Madam. Yeah, I'm happy to speak now, Madam Mayor, and I welcome the opportunity to give some points. The Conservatives have engaged in the formulation of this budget, but directly with the Section 151 officer and the senior management team, because we felt that was more appropriate at this time to do that in terms of how we could help influence or shape and give advice, because, you know, we were in charge for quite a long time. But make no mistake when we talk about, excuse me, fairer funding. What is fairer funding? Which we all welcome, but it's not free, because it comes at the expense of the taxpayer. Because the Labour Party have got money to spend because they've taxed everybody or not increased the thresholds in terms of personal allowances. Now, we all know this to be true, and all the economic experts have said so. So it's not the Labour Party giving free money, it is coming from taxpayers' pockets. But it just may not come via the council this time. And indeed, as Councillor Ormston points out, we are at the maximum tax limit without having a referendum. And I agree with most of what Councillor Ormston says. He says some very wise words. But we are still broke as a council. And the leader of the council blames the Conservatives, and we've run it into the ground, she says. Well, there are many in this room that were either Conservatives at the time or still are now. And the fact of the matter is, we've invested in this city. Yes, when you look at the optics and the top line numbers of £500 million worth of debt, go to the website where the Section 151 officer has done a myth-busting exercise that says it's here. Oh, it's like we planned that. We didn't. So that says exactly where the money has gone. Most of the money has gone on schools, for example, which some we've then moved on and we don't get that money back, but the debt still remains on our books. We also built an energy from waste plant, which to date, from memory, has received or generated an income of £47.5 million to this council, which was a good business decision by the Conservative administration. We've also invested and delivered a university for this city. Not the Labour Party, the Conservatives did that, not just under my watch, under others as well. So to say that we've run the city into the ground is how you want to look at that. But conversely, and I urge you and members of the public, go on the council's website and look at this myth-busting document that says, not prepared by politicians, prepared by a very experienced officer. And I think you'll find, conversely, we've got £650 million there or thereabouts, I'm rounding numbers up, of assets. So it's not all about debt, it's about how you spent your money, and the money has been spent wisely investing in schools for our children, as I say, and lots of other projects that you will find on there. So we've invested here, for example, where we saved, I don't know, 7 or 8 million by, in effect, how many in this room have got a mortgage on their house or had a mortgage? That's what we've done here. We've taken a mortgage on this property because we were paying rent. And as a result of taking the mortgage, we're now paying less. We're also looking at investing in other properties, perhaps. Who knows? But again, where we can save money, and we wouldn't disagree, you want to take a mortgage on something that we're currently renting, then we would support that if it makes sense to do so. So don't buy into the narrative that the council has been run into the ground. We've invested wisely, spent the money wisely, and yes, there are some errors, and the Labour Party will make errors as well. Or if you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. When we talk about the hotel, for example, which was done to make money, but who knew of this global pandemic called COVID? Otherwise, that would have come good, I'm sure. I think the Labour Party policy on its disposal will be a disaster, and I'll put that on record because it has budget implications for this council, which have been factored in and won't pay down the debt. We have no reserves because our challenges, it doesn't matter who's in charge, have been immense. Government funding has been short. Demand has been rising. Look at Bedford Council, for example. They're looking at £80 million in terms of external support. But we ourselves have just been awarded somewhere in the region of 10 million. So our budget is only balanced because we borrowed more money. It's not because somebody's done a good job in balancing the numbers. So we will borrow more money. We're also charging the maximum that we can without a referendum on council tax increase. So all in all, this budget is set, it is balanced. But, you know, saying the budget's balanced for 3 years, we balance our budget every year. It has to be. The Labour Party have not worked a miracle. Now, Councillor Jamil says it's great that we know where we are for 3 years, and I agree with you, Councillor Jamil. It's nice to have some certainty. But every year the budget is balanced and will be balanced, and it will be this year. But it's also been based on projection and forecasts, and we've failed to make those projections and forecasts, which is why we're 6 million in year short on our budget. And I'm sure the officers will be working very, very hard to try and reduce that as much as they can. But this is nothing new. It's been a challenge on budget every year to do what we can. And I wouldn't even claim, if somebody asked me the other day, I said, look, we'd be in exactly the same position if the Conservatives were running this council, or if anybody else was, the Liberal Democrats or the Greens. You've only got the money you've got, and you have to make the best use of it. I won't waffle on much longer. I think, just in case, I'm not sure if anybody else wants to speak. I didn't see many hands coming up. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I've got to say on this budget.
Thank you. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I would like to congratulate excuse me, all that had a hand in developing and delivering this budget. From the officer side, our Section 151 officer has come up trumps by involving all of our officer teams to put together a sensible, honest budget that seeks to maintain and indeed increase services this council is able to offer. First, indeed, since I've been a councillor, where a budget is not only balanced for the coming year, but also for the medium term going forward for the next 2 years thereafter. So thank you to all the officers involved in bringing your bit to the budget together. Maybe even this is the ultimate team for this year's upcoming staffing awards. Get your nominations in quick. I move on to the various councillors involved in our FSWG, who gave many hours of scrutiny to delivering a draft budget. On to then a couple of all-member briefings and the joint scrutiny. The overriding feedback was that this budget was different, something you could hang your hat on, something that has turned the tide of slashing and salami slicing, but a much more positive business as usual. What can be done to improve our offering? Now, this wasn't done in isolation. We've had positive support from our MPs. Let's be honest, here a government has listened to our pleas for fairer funding for Peterborough and delivered something we've been trying for as long as I have been a councillor to get the previous government to do. I remember that there's a big campaign in 2018, Stand Up for Peterborough. It didn't really go anywhere, did it? The Tory government weren't listening. They didn't understand about the population growth in Peterborough and the fact that we were not getting our fair share. And the Labour government have changed that. So, you know, kudos to them. I would also like to note that despite the naysayers' predictions that our cross-party administration was not going to stay the course and would fall apart, we have given this council some much-needed stability, and this balanced budget is a great example of how, by working together across party, it makes for better outcomes for our great city. Following our group meeting this week, I'm happy to report that this budget has the support of the Liberal Democrat group. I would hope that next year all parties are able to participate in the FSWG for another great budget next year. I just wanted to sort of put my kind of speech to one side. I just wanted to sort of address some of the comments that, made from the Conservative leader. He's failed to talk about Empower solar panel scheme that flopped on its backside. He did mention the Hilton. I mean, you know, you couldn't have got away with not mentioning that one. The fact that we changed our computer systems from Microsoft to Google, only to go back to Microsoft a couple of years later, costing a couple of £1 million to transition from one system to the other. That was done under a Conservative administration. The selling of the football ground at a loss. It was done up in a lovely bow, and it made to look like we'd made a profit, but we did not make a profit on that. And dare I say, John Mansfield Centre is another example of the Conservatives making bad decisions. Reserves eaten up. Well, that was down to budgets that came from the Tory administration that, frankly, did not balance. We essentially had to rely on our reserves to prop up those budgets. This budget is different. So, you know, with that, I think that you need to take the rose-tinted spectacles off, see this budget for what it really is, which is a proper budget, one that we should all be proud of, and one that we should all get behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Amjad Iqbal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been a long time that I've been sitting down. I think it's time for me to stand up. Chamber, it's only the budget. Come on, cheer up, man. Cheer up. Madam Mayor, tonight is not about party politics. It's about our shared responsibility to the residents of Peterborough. Every member in this chamber recognises the financial pressure we face. Demand in adult and children's social care continues to rise. The cost of living services has increased, and rightly, residents' expectations remain high. These challenges are not owned by one party. They are owned by all of us. They are collective responsibilities that require collective resolve, leadership, and not point scoring. The budget reflects careful judgment and difficult decisions. It protects essential frontline services. It supports our most vulnerable residents. It plans responsibly for risk. It is transparent about its assumptions and realistic about the financial climate in which we are operating. Madam Mayor, we may disagree on individual lines. That is democracy. But financial stability is not optional. Sound governance is not optional. Safeguarding the services our communities rely on is not optional. As a former cabinet member for finance, I understand the scale of the challenges that we inherited. We began strengthening governance and addressing those structural issues. This budget continues that disciplined and reasonable approach. It's low risk, it's measured, it avoids reckless sweeping cuts, it properly considers uncertainty as we prepare to transition into the new authority, and crucially, it protects the council and the taxpayers of Peterborough from future liabilities. This is a serious budget for serious times. Madam Mayor, there are no amendments before us. There is no alternative budget on the table. In these circumstances, abstention is not neutrally, it is avoidance. Voting against without offering an alternative is not leadership, it is posturing. For my part, I will be voting in favour, and I urge colleagues across the chamber to do the responsible thing and support this budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Resti.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We look at the budget, and it is at least the least that could have been done. It can't, we can praise everybody and we can't rip them all down. It's the least that could be done. It has to be balanced. It has to come to this chamber for approval, and otherwise this council fails. So well done those people that have put us in a position where the council survives. It is the minimum that can be possible. They go on to say, well, we've all had our cuts, and the previous Conservative administration and the Conservative government have not listened to us. But you see, when you're as old as me, you don't just remember the last administration, but you also listen and remember the last government and the government before that. And I can tell you that I got called into Tony Blair's office at 10 Downing Street in 1998 and was told what some of the future was for the NHS. And nowhere in there was there financial protection for our population and our people. Nowhere. And in fact, as we all know, training places were cut for both doctors and nurses, and it's continued with various governments. I don't make that as a political statement. It's continued with various governments since then. It's only now that we're beginning to wake up to the fact that it takes 10 years to train a doctor, and we need them desperately. Otherwise, we're all not going to make it to our expected life expectancy. Now, everybody goes on about, oh, well, particularly one leader of the Liberal Democrats has said, we did, without question, keep council tax low unnecessarily. Well, where are we today? What is the biggest problem when you stand on the doorstep and you knock on somebody's door? What is the first thing they complain about? They can't afford to pay the bills. Now, we have inflation running at 3%, and we're about to put our council tax up by basically 5%. If we had done that as administrations from the time that I was leader, council tax would be so high, we wouldn't have anybody living in our city anymore. They'd be living out God knows where. So let's be honest, we do what is necessary at the time with the resources that are available to us. A stupid thing, but when I drive home from here through the middle of our city, I have to be careful for the potholes. My car that's probably got some of the biggest wheels that anybody can have, and I'm having to avoid the potholes to get home of something that in my lifetime as a councillor we have never seen. And yet we've got rates at 4.9%. And the other thing that is amazing, I love the budget because it deals with lots of things, fair enough. I can't support it, but you've got to give them credit for what they've done. But where is our way of protecting those people who are vulnerable, the ladies, members of the city who want to use our city centre at night? Where is it in the budget? I mean, there's nothing in the budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hemrod.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I would like to remind members that had the Conservative administration in 2011-2012 frozen council tax for several years, the council would have around £12 million more each year. Decisions taken in past have had a negative impact on the residents of today. We now have a government that has provided better funding for our council, and the Labour government has been clear to invest in public services to ensure proper investment in the services our communities rely on, something the previous government, Conservative governments, chose not to do. Something the previous Conservative government chose not to prioritise over many years. This budget protects important services, enables investment, and is something we should get behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howard.
Oh, is it me already? Thank you for you, Madam Mayor. Doesn't I was saying to Councillor Allen the other day, doesn't time change things so quickly? I think 2 years ago I was presenting it. A year ago, Councillor Hogg was running around telling everyone to vote against it, and then the dysfunctional vote of no confidence. Councillor Kime wouldn't even be the leader now had the Conservative group not voted how they did for the budget and for the following vote of no confidence. So isn't it funny in a year's time, tunes do change, don't they, so quickly, my goodness. But there you go, all the fun of politics. Welcome aboard, Councillor O'Neill. Enjoy your stay. Enjoy your stay. I'd like to commend the officer team for achieving the balanced budget. I know how much work goes into this, and it's not easy. The fairer funding, cross-politically, everyone's wanted it for as many years as I've been a councillor, and certainly before as well. So it is good to see that. And of course, it's made a huge difference. You can see that in the budget papers tonight. But of course, it's not all joy because our reserves are low. And our overspend last year, if repeated again next year, will have a really serious impact. So it's not sweetness and light. There is a lot of work still to do. And this administration continues to borrow. You know, the debt pile is going up at the moment, which again is something we're going to have to watch very closely and manage. And the financial risks that remain are sobering, as we see in the Cabinet paper and the robustness statement. But when it comes to budgets, we have to think of the people in the city. There's a good 200,000 of them, and I can't name every single one of them, but I will name some of the people who've made and framed my views of the budget tonight and where I'm going with it. A year ago, I had my feet to the fire and voted for the budget. And then a few weeks after that, the news came out that the Hampton Industrial Hub was closing. And I had a phone call from a lady called Hayley, and let me tell you, it's one of the most emotional and hardest phone calls I've ever had, not just as a councillor, in my life. It was horrendous. And she challenged me, and she was right to. She said, how could you have voted for that budget leading to these horrific cuts? And I said, it wasn't there. It wasn't in the paperwork. And if it was, of course I wouldn't have. And we were very fortunate because in the end, you know, the decision was overrun, but it shows the impact of these hidden decisions. We've had this before. We had it with the dementia centre the year before. You know, me and some of the ward colleagues went to the centre to talk in the consultation. I remember saying to them, you know, emotionally prepare for what you're going to see, because these are some of the most vulnerable people in our city. And the whole process was horrendous. And what I don't know tonight is, can I promise Hayley that something like that won't happen this year? You know, we've heard it, no surprises. We heard this last year as well, and the year before, and I'm very conscious of it. You know, can I look Hayley in the eye and tell her in the next year that there won't be a situation like that again? And then I think of Ricky skates at the Hampton Skate Park. It hasn't had lighting for over 12 months, which is unbelievable from a safety point of view, let alone for the geography of the area. It took 8 months to get a response, after which was only a response because BBC Cams got involved in the story to find out what on earth is going on. Now, this is not the fault of any individual, it's the fault of resource. We have not got resource to deal with issues when residents raise reasonable problems that we should be empowered to fix. 12 months. I can tell you today that we are just getting quotes for the lighting, but that's how long it's took. We have got a serious resource issue. If we as councillors can't get things like that done quicker than 12 months, there is a major issue on resource. Does this budget fix that resource? Does it give the resource to provide a better standard of service? I can't see it in the paperwork, I have to say. I can name Steve. Steve lives in Hampton East. Been working on a traffic regulation order to try and bring in double yellows in an unadopted estate. 3 years. Lucky I'm stubborn. 3 years. It's still going on. The consultation hasn't gone out yet. And all that time, the traffic continues to build. The antisocial parking increases. You know, and again, it's not a fault of any individual. It's resource. There is not enough resource. And this is what concerns me with this budget, because we owe Ricky, Steve and Hayley service. The City Council should be able to serve their needs. They're not unreasonable requests. Where is that in this budget? Where is that in this thinking? You know, when we could be peacocking, we can get the selfie sticks out when the government knocks on our door and gives all this big money. Yeah, great, get the selfie sticks out. What about the people on the ground, the residents, who are not getting the selfie stick service? They are waiting over 12 months to get really simple issues resolved. So my mind is thinking, for Hayley, Ricky and Steve, I can't see how I can support it, because I want to see in the next year those issues resolved, and I want to make sure there are no surprises. I can't be certain of that at this stage, but do you know what? I'm happy to come back in a year and come to the party. If I see a good year where this stuff starts happening and we roll our sleeves up and help these residents in Hampton and across the city, and there's no surprises, I will willingly come back, because I've supported every single budget up until tonight. I've been a big campaigner to encourage it as well. But tonight I'm not as minded to, because of that situation. But there is a year to review, and I want to see a better service for residents in this city, because they deserve it. And I cannot see where it's coming from in this budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Antones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The debate, I think, has been very balanced. And again, I would praise all of the hard work that officers and FSWD have made. I have a number of observations on the budget. When we were briefed, the term broadly realistic was used, and I think that was probably realistic. There are risks and there are no reserves. My view is on the transition to the new LGA authority as we go forward into 2027 and 28. Looking through the budget, it's good to see 3 years. However, when I was actually analysing the figures, now please correct me if I haven't got the exact figures right. We've moved from a position, well, the debt will increase from 40 to 43 million in terms of funding that debt. So that's not going down, that will go up. It would appear that capital receipts will go from effectively, I think, about 24 million this year to nil in 28 under the new authority. At the same time, capital receipts, capital receipts will also reduce. So we have a situation that it appears that the council is safeguarding the current position, but as the new authority takes over in 27 and into 28, there seem to be no assets left to sell to provide any capital. Capital receipts will be nil. There's also the long-term view in terms of, as I mentioned, the ongoing debt, which will be that burden. Those are just questions I leave for consideration at the moment. My ward, Hampton and Great Haddon, we have a situation where we currently have council tax, but we also pay service charge for many of the services in terms of the green areas, play areas, etc., that are enjoyed by residents elsewhere in the city. Our residents are going to see the council tax plus that service charge increase, and therefore we are concerned, or certainly residents are concerned about that position. The other elements which haven't been mentioned are the combined authority levy and the parish council levies, which are again on top. Again, these are just considerations for the members of the public who pay these sums going forward. To echo what was said, I think the level of service is the key, and at the moment I would echo Councillor Howard's view that things do take considerably longer than I feel they should to enact. I will support the budget, but I think we need clarity and defined risk management strategies for dealing with those high-risk elements. That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. First of all, can I take this opportunity to thank all members for their contribution, thank the finance team and all the directorate for working so hard in delivering savings and working in their portfolios, and particularly Councillor Jamil for working relentlessly in bringing us to this point. Madam Mayor, this year's budget is remarkably different. No visible cuts to vital services, such as shutting off the LIDAR or removal of the lollipop lady, or in fact, removal of the mayor's car. On the contrary, more money have gone into our vital services, such as children's services, adult social care, my portfolio of growth and regen, and all that has been towards one single factor, and that is fair funding. Ever since I was elected in 2018, we've been asking for fair funding, but no joy. Fair funding has been particularly helpful to our city because of the one single reason, high deprivation in our city. So therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to give special mention and thanks to our 2 MPs who have made this happen. Not that they just made this happen, furthermore, Pride in Place funding of £20 million, which will make a huge difference to the lives of the people who are living in the most deprived areas of our city. And I will ask officers to let's make a massive difference with that money, have most positively impactful and legacy projects serving them for the next 20 to 30 years. Coming back to the budget, the capital budget, most of our capital projects are funded by grant funding. And again, special thanks, and those grant funding, the majority of them are coming from Combined Authority. So special thanks to our Combined Authority Mayor for channeling that and helping us invest in our projects in our city. Projects where we are funding ourselves, and we may see something later on where the case is clearly safe to invest and the return is great, we will support that. But this budget equally, Madam Mayor, doesn't come without challenges. As many of our colleagues mentioned, reserves. Our reserves remain dangerously low, but fair funding and forecast tells us now that the 27-28 and 28-29 will increase. But equally, there are increased demands for our services due to high deprivation. We also have known unknowns, and then we also have to deal with unknown unknowns, such as additional investment required in children's services, housing, particularly homeless, temporary accommodation. As far as the Council is concerned, we must continue to innovate and be more efficient, use AI and other tools to ensure that we deliver services better and more efficient way and save money. Over the last months, working in the growth thing, I always strongly believed that when you come to a budget, you have the cost and you have the income. You must increase the income to service those services. Growth is the key factor for next 5 to 10 years for our city. If we grow in a right manner, in a right way, the public income will increase, and with that income, we can go on to service our demands. Overall, this has been a joint effort by Cabinet, officers, MPs, Combined Authority Mayor, and all the parties across the chamber. I support and recommend this budget to all the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. As well as all the other investments that the government has announced in recent weeks regarding Pride of Place funding, SEND funding, on the 9th of February, the Department for Education announced that pending approval of the local authority reform plan, it intends to write off 90% of the deficits held to the high needs block for the financial year 25-26, with a commitment that deficits that arrive in 26-27 and 26-27 and 28 will also be included within this, so long as we put forward an appropriate action plan to show how we are going to be spending the funds in the future. Along with the announcement on Monday for additional SEND support of up to £4 billion, this is showing that this government is listening to what parents, families and residents needs, and it's also listening to what the councils are saying regarding the high needs block. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This year, for the first time I can remember as a councillor, we are not having to put forward cuts to services in order to put forward a balanced budget. It is a balanced budget with help from the Labour government finally recognising what so many previous governments for over 10 years haven't, when they imposed austerity on local authorities. They've given us fairer funding and for this year exceptional funding support, substantial improvements in funding that better reflect local needs and better stability for an ever-growing city. Also, a comprehensive capital programme to deliver infrastructure improvements across Peterborough via excellent performance in gaining grants and funding with help also and from the combined authority. Therefore, this means through this coalition cabinet's sound financial decision making and clear governance, we can protect and improve services for Peterborough people. Within my environment and transport portfolio, examples of these include bringing refuse and waste environmental services back in-house to give better value for money and improved services, more funding in the capital programme, along with better and improved street scenes like the newly opened Lincoln Road, active travel schemes like Thorpewood and the planned cycleways on Thorpe Road and Ounder Road, lots of schemes to improve repair roads and pavements. And this includes potholes. Potholes has been mentioned tonight, so I think I do need to comment on it. The cold weather followed by the extremely wet weather has created a perfect conditions for potholes to form. This year is worse than last year. Up from January last year to where we are today, there was 231 reports. This year, so far, there's 787. We have already fixed 2,431 by the end of January, but there is more to do. And I'm speaking with M Group. They have the Dragon Master, which is a thing which fixes potholes. It's nothing to do with the Chinese for the mayors do. And for the next 3 to 4 weeks, since Monday, they've been fixing potholes. And they put an extra crew out there to fix potholes during the night. And this has also been possible for extra funding, just like fairer funding, extra funding from the government. An extra £349,000 we got from the government to help with potholes. So believe me, after years and years of local government being squeezed until the pip's fallen out, at last we now can fund things and get things done. Also, road safety schemes, including traffic calming and pedestrian crossings. Action to improve climate change resilience over coming years whilst providing better financial and environmental energy choices. A new pedestrian and cycle bridge linking up the embankment to Fletton Quays. All of this just in my cabinet area whilst protecting and investing in other key areas like children's services, adult social care, housing, communities, safety, leisure, culture and economic growth. I ask, please, that everybody, for the good of Peterborough, supports this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I ask everybody to bear with me. I've been auditing and appraising people all week and my voice is nearly gone, but I'll try my best. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The most transparent process I've ever been involved with when it comes to budget. And I'd like to thank everybody on behalf of my group for their hard work and all those that participated in its development. Fairer funding finally being delivered after years of austerity and cuts by the previous government is extremely positive news. But there is much more work to do with the increased pressures, particularly with regards to adult social care and children's services. Residents understand that they have to pay for council services, but we can't keep asking for more and then deliver less, which is the general feeling out there for many. I'm concerned that previous cuts have gone too far from an officer's point of view, and this has a marked effect on customer service, response times, quality assurance and results. I ask that we consider the workloads of the teams and ensure we have enough resource going forward to deliver for the people of this city and do so in a reasonable time. So I concur with Councillor Howard's comments. I will be supporting the budget this year, the first time in 3, even though the cost of living is so difficult for people. The budget that's been presented tonight is very clear and very concise. But please do not let me down, and remember that there are many wards in this city, not just the golden few, and every taxpayer in whichever ward they live deserves to see results for the council tax they pay in their ward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I was considering whether I should speak on this budget or not, because I feel like the mood in the room is some people are very enthused by this budget and some people are a little bit lukewarm, and I'm kind of somewhere in between the two. But there's been a few really good points, and just what Councillor Harper said, everybody pays council tax in this city, and just that touches back on things like pride of place funding. So pride of place funding is £20 million for 2 sections of the city, which are high deprivation, but there's many sections of this city that are high deprivation that would really do well to use that kind of funding. In particular, our candidate in Ravensthorpe ward has been, incredibly upset that wasn't one of the areas that was considered. In terms of the fact that we've got a balanced budget, I know Councillor Seresi said this is the bare minimum. I think we've gone a little bit beyond that, in that we've got a balanced budget over the next 3 years, which is quite rare. I think it's balanced. The bare minimum is to have a balanced budget for the upcoming year. So it's certainly gone beyond that to an extent. But I'm a little bit hesitant to be fully behind this budget because last year we had a balanced budget and we came in so it looks like we're going to come in 6 or 7 million over budget. The year before we had a balanced budget, we came in at about, I think it was 5.5 million. We've depleted our reserves. The reserves have been mentioned. Councillor Day mentioned our reserves, and we've got something in there over the next 3 years that looks like we're propping up our reserves over the next 3 years. One thing that really sold the budget to me last year was our commitment as a council to open up our own Peterborough City Council Children's Home. I know Councillor Cole, you were really enthused by that. That was included in the budget. We did a lot of work at FSWG. We had £2 million in the capital programme for that, and to date we've had very little progress. I've had assurances, enough to get me over the line, that this is a piece of work that will continue next year. But just going back to the point just made, I can't remember who made it around, I think it might have been Councillor Howard, we've got really good budget ideas, but we don't have the resource. And because of a lack of resource, we don't really make the progress on some of these, really good initiatives. So I would echo that. I think we really need to invest in resource. If we've got a shortage of resource, I think we use some of that programme, maybe even budget for additional FTEs to come in and work specifically on those projects which are important to councillors. And then I think beyond that, the only other thing was we spoke last year again in the children's section around home to school transport and how that was a cost that was ballooning up. I've seen some numbers on that recently, and it looks like we've gone from 4 million 5 years ago to about 8.5, 9 million this year. We have recognised some savings, but it just seems to be a cost that's continually ballooning up, and I appreciate part of that is demand-led, but the other part that we can control, being a little bit more nimble, a little bit more dynamic with the way we approach those kinds of contracts, I think would certainly help. If fairer funding didn't come in, we would have had a very different meeting tonight. So we have to understand that that's a carrot that's been dangled by central government, because in the absence of that, we would have really, really struggled to have what is a fairly sensible debate on a budget which looks fairly comfortable for us. But again, I mean, you won't find this very often, but I echo what Councillor Fitzgerald says. That is still taxpayer money, and it's money taken off of workers in Peterborough who are paying additional taxes because their thresholds haven't moved up, and the government's been allowed to give additional money. So it's taking money out of your pockets and give it to your council to let them spend it and to protect frontline services. So our taxpayers are paying for that. I think I was a little bit undecided whether I would support or abstain. I think I'm probably on the support now, just given the level of debate, but I thought it was worth making those points. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tai?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I'm going to be supporting this budget. I think the process that we've gone through has been incredibly robust. The documentation that sits behind this is incredibly comprehensive. I thought I might be able to get through a few cabinet and full council meetings without hearing the word pothole, so I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but very pleased to hear that we're going to have overnight work, and I hope we can prioritise the roads between here and Longthorpe to help Councillor Seresti get home. I've heard the word balanced budget mentioned 3 or 4 times. Of course, this isn't a balanced budget. This is better than a balanced budget, around £45 million earmarked for reserves. I heard what Councillor Howard said, and I'm really in sympathy with all of those points. We're all here to deliver better services for our communities and to deliver enhanced community development. At the moment, it's appropriate to put that money into our reserves, given the financial situation we find ourselves in. And I don't really care about how we got here. I just know this is where we are. So £45 million focused on reserves over the next 3 years, and I hope growing. As time goes on, we need to reflect on Councillor Howard's words and say, what can we use that money for? Yes, now it's for reserves, but what's the next step? And how do we get from a council that has made budget cut after budget cut to a council that is investing in our community and championing the things we want to make happen. So I think it is a positive budget, and for that reason I'm very happy to support it.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? No? Councillor Cairn, would you like to exercise your right to speak? A seconder, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I've listened to the views across the chamber and I think that they have been constructive. I would like to say to the Leader of the Opposition, stop the spin, back a balanced budget. So, Madam Mayor, for members and especially residents watching, let's cut through the noise. For years, Peterborough was asked to deliver first-class services on second-tier funding. And before our administration and coalition, we received well below what similar councils received per resident. That chronic gap is exactly how a city gets forced into this crisis footing. That wasn't created by this coalition administration. It's the bill arriving after years of national underfunding, and that's what we've had to deal with. When we talk about national taxpayers' money, we could go into the territory of whataboutery, but it was also taxpayers' money that was used for crony contracts during COVID, billions of pounds worth. And that is where local government councils were also underfunded. Now, I've set up my own list of mythbusters. They point the finger. The reserves are low. But it's not our fault. It is our job to fix them. And guess what? We are. Reserves were drained by a storm of realities. That's the truth. In 2024 and 25, the year ended with 5 million overspent and only 68% of savings were delivered and delayed disposals after interest costs jumped and demand surged. That's on public record. This budget reverses the direction, and that's what we all need to focus on. Yes, it does balance for 3 straight years, and it puts money back into our reserves by design, not by luck. So, whilst we admit the bruise, we're also the ones healing it, Councillor Fitzgerald. We saved the industrial hub, and we also saved the Dementia Resource Centre that members have mentioned. I've seen some members say that exceptional funding support means we've asked government to bail us out. Well, actually, exceptional financial support is the government's own safety valve for underfunded councils that are hit by national cost and demand shocks. We're actually using it openly and temporarily to protect the general fund flow while new, fairer settlement flows through and we rebuild our reserves. That is exactly what the Section 25 report from the Financial Officer Director states, which is transparent and it's lawful and it's actually prudent. If anything failed, it was the old funding formula that left Peterborough behind for years. And the multi-year settlement from December 2025 finally turns that corner. And this budget locks the gains in for everyone in the city. Let's talk about council tax. 4.99% is a choice, they say. Actually, it's a hard reality. The 4.99% is 2.99% plus 2% of adults' services. And it's within the national cap. It avoids immediate frontline cuts in children's and adult social care, the most vulnerable in our city. There are no lazy blanket hikes. If the opposition wants to vote against the 4.99%, they should say what they're going to cut, which they have been doing for years when they have frozen council tax and racked up costs in the region of 100 million. That is what people need to hear. Who remembers the Lifeline services being scrapped under their administration? Who remembers citizens' advice being scrapped as well? It's all well and good, but who remembers Councillor Fitzgerald as the leader of the then council saying that sometimes people will have to pay for their own care? Memories do serve us short, don't they? But that was when they were hitting the most vulnerable and frail. And guess what? This coalition administration has called time on that. What we inherited in 2021 was the national reviewers warned that Peterborough faced Section 114 risk, the bankruptcy-style trigger, without exceptional support. That's the historic baseline. We didn't write it, but we are the ones rewriting it. 2024 to 2025. Yes, there was a 5 million overspend. The reserves were down, delayed disposals, inflated borrowing costs, but those facts were owned in public. In 2025-26, we set a balanced budget under intense risk. Now, we've got a 3-year balanced MTFS, explicit reserve rebuilding, and a fairer national settlement, thanks to our MPs and government finally acknowledging our need. This is a Labour government that listens to councils up and down the country and understands that local councils are delivering on life and death services. That's the difference between spinning plates and actually standing them up. And you can test our transparency. Quite frankly, this isn't just trust us, it's auditable by design. The Chief Finance Director says, estimates are broadly realistic and deliverable, with low reserves flagged honestly, and the exceptional funding support has been stated in plain sight. To the opposition, if you're voting against a 3-year balance plan, against rebuilding reserves, and against using the government's own safety valve exactly as intended, then tell residents which services you will cut this year to make up the gap. And you haven't even presented an alternative budget. This is what I call a so-called veto theatre. It's not really a funding strategy, is it? This is my closing message to all members and residents. Look, you deserved better funding for years. The record shows Peterborough got less per head than comparable councils, and guess what? It hurt. We fought for a fairer deal. We finally have it. Now we're balancing 3 years in a row, rebuilding reserves and using national tools openly to protect services while new funding beds in. That's stability that you can measure, not slogans. We're also investing where residents will feel it. New leisure centres and a pool, a station quarter regeneration, more school and send places, all inside a fully costed £346 million capital programme. That's visible progress, not just promises. To members, tonight is a choice between performative outrage and practical stability. Back the plan that's balanced, transparent and deliverable, and let's keep Peterborough on the road from underfunded and fragile to funded and resilient for the first time in years. Support the budget, and if you don't, without an alternative plan, it's nothing but political posturing and exploiting the electorate who have faced service cuts for years. This year, we're calling time out on this. I'd like to thank the coalition members. It is the stability of this coalition that has reflected in the budget. And every single member has contributed to this, including the Green Party, may I say, and scrutinised it in some robust aspects. And we've disagreed, but we've disagreed well. So, when Councillor Jamil sums up, please do support this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jamil, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My leader's not really left me with much to sum up. However, there's a few points I'd like to make. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for what has been a good debate tonight, in the spirit of how debates should take place. And I'd like to thank all those who have shown support for the budget. Now, I would also re-extend next year's FSWG hand to the Conservative group. You had your briefings. You've come here, I think, collegiately is the way forward. You know, we seem to have a consensus with regards to the budget, and I think together we can work well, and all you have to do is come back, and that door is open to you all the time. As an administration, we will continue to manage the budget tightly in 26-27 and look forward to working across the chamber with every member Doesn't matter what colour you are, whether you're independent or not. It's important. It's important for the future of this city that we get the next 2 years right when we go into LGR, that we go in with a level playing field or above, and it's important for the future of the residents of our city. I humbly request that all members support the passing of this budget and work with us for the next 2 years. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The recommendations proposed are set out under the recommendations header at pages 21 to 22 of the report. In line with Part 4, Section 1 to 24.6 of the Constitution, a recorded vote will be taken. I will now hand over to Simon Hill, Democratic Services Manager, to take the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I will call the members in turn. Alphabetically, you may vote for, against or abstain. Councillor Ahmed.
Against.
Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
For.
Councillor Zamir Ali.
For.
Councillor Allen.
Abstain.
Councillor Antunes.
For.
Councillor Ayres.
Abstain.
Councillor Barkham.
Abstain.
Councillor Bye.
For.
Councillor Andrew Bond.
For.
Councillor Sandra Bond.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Sereste.
Abstain.
Councillor Cole.
For.
Councillor Day.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Elsie.
Abstain.
Councillor Farid.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
For.
Councillor Sahib Farouk.
For.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Abstain.
Councillor Judy Fox.
For.
Councillor John Fox.
For.
Councillor Geraghty.
For.
Councillor Harper.
For.
Councillor Hemraj.
For.
Councillor Peter Hiller.
For.
Councillor Sarah Hillier.
For.
Councillor Hogg.
For.
Councillor Howard.
Abstain.
Councillor Amjad Iqbal.
For.
Councillor Numan Iqbal.
For.
Councillor Jamil.
Definitely for.
Councillor Alison Jones.
For.
Councillor Dennis Jones.
For.
Councillor Khan.
Abstain.
Councillor Mahmood.
For.
Councillor McNally.
For.
Councillor O'Neill.
Abstain.
Councillor Ormston.
For.
Councillor Perkins.
Abstain.
Councillor Kayham.
I think for.
Councillor Rafiq.
Abstain.
Councillor Rush.
For.
Councillor Seeger.
For.
Councillor Ann Shahid.
For.
Councillor Asif Shahid.
For. Thank you.
Councillor Skipstead.
For.
Councillor Stevenson.
For.
Councillor Strangward. For. Councillor Ty.
For.
Councillor Warren.
Abstain.
Councillor Wiggin.
For.
Members, that was 39 in favour, 1 against and 12 abstained. That is carried.
Thank you. We'll carry on. Number 9B, Executive Site Acquisition. Members, before we begin this item, I would remind members this agenda item is an exempt report and is not to be disclosed outside of this meeting, and to do so would amount to a breach of the elected member code of conduct. And I am adjourning the meeting for 10 minutes to allow the press and public to leave the chamber. Thank you. Yeah, well, yeah, because I want to get there early. Yeah. Well, everybody ready? Carry on. Thank you, everybody. I can inform members of the public and press that the previous item was approved. Thank you. I wouldn't do that. Item 9C, executive allocation of funding and award of contract for REBA stages 3 and 4 for pool leisure development. Councillor Zamir Ali, as Cabinet Member for Communities, Poverty and Public Health, would you like to move the recommendations?
Yes, Chair. This report outlines this strong progress being... My mic's on. It is. Hello? No, it is on. Hello? Okay. This report outlines the strong progress being made on the development of the new leisure centre, which will replace the regional pool. A business case has been submitted to secure £20 million of funding from the government's Growth Mission Fund. The submission sets a clear and compelling economic and strategic case for investment for the important facility. Members are being asked to approve changes to the capital programme for the 2025-26 programme. This will enable the next stages of works to begin. REBA stages 3 and 4 will involve the development of detailed technical and spatial designs over the coming months. This work will be led by the Council's appointed contractor, Alliance and Leisure. Planning will be submitted, or shall I say planning permission is expected to be submitted in July 26. Subject to approval, preliminary work are anticipated to begin in October 26, with construction of the building commencing in February 27. The Council remains on track to open the new leisure centre in September 2028. I was going to say 27 then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, would you second the motion and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You keep on whispering in my ear, Councillor Fitzgerald. It's like they're three old men just sort of, you know, going on and on and on. They keep on just... Yeah, I agree to it. But I am actually going to celebrate this. I'd like to thank, on record, our MP Andrew Pakes, who's really actually was passionate about this even before he was elected and went to government to lobby for £20 million and it secured that. We've reached a stage now where we can genuinely say that a new swimming pool is coming to our city. We know that we are under-resourced with relevance to swimming within this city, and also having a look at the fact that swimming is an essential life skill, and there are in that vicinity so many primary schools where children are unable to use the facility since the demolition of the regional pool. So I'm delighted about this. I know many people have brought up the fact that this is only 25-metre 8-lane pool. But let's not forget, we've got our wonderful heritage jewel in the crown in the Peterborough Lido, which is actually 51.5 metres in length. If anyone knows, Councillor Skipstead has been swimming there regularly every year, she knows, which we're going to be opening earlier this year. So having a city centre location for this sports facility is absolutely brilliant, and I wholeheartedly support it and would request members to do so as well.
Thank you. Does any member wish to begin debate? Can I also remind members that if they wish to discuss any of the exempt information appended to the report, they state this in advance so we can move into the private session. All agreed? Yeah. Councillor Ali, would you like to sum up?
I think everyone's agreed, so I think it's done. Thank you.
The recommendation proposed is to set out under the recommendations header at page 289 of the report. Is this agreed? Obviously, we've just agreed. Thank you very much. Item D, Executive Section 40, Biodiversity Strategy Approval. Councillor Angus Ellis, as Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yep, Section 40 Biodiversity Strategy Approval. It was a privilege to share the draft Section 40 Biodiversity report with the Economy, Inclusive Growth and Environment Scrutiny Committee, as well as with the Cabinet, who have endorsed the report for adoption. In brief, colleagues, this Section 40 report highlights the fantastic opportunities we have for biodiversity within the scope of our duties across the city. I believe we should recommend its adoption. The Council has a statutory requirement to submit the Section 40 Biodiversity Report to Central Government by the 31st of March. This is the first time that councils are required to report on their biodiversity actions. Previously, they did them, but they didn't have to report on them. This report suggests several policies and actions Peterborough City Council can implement with the aim of furthering the general biodiversity objective. This document is being presented to this full council as it is intended to replace the previous 2018 biodiversity strategy, which was discussed by full council. The Section 40 Biodiversity Report is a rationalisation and expansion on the previous biodiversity strategy. I now welcome comments from members and ask that you adopt it for submission to government.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. And would you like to exercise your right to speak as seconder?
I'm okay, I'll agree, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody want to do debate? Agreed. Thank you. Councillor Ellis, did you want to sum up any more?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, members, for adopting this, and we'll get it submitted to government.
Thank you. The recommendation proposed is set out under the recommendations header at page 303 of the report. Obviously, it's been agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 10, questions on the executive decisions made since the last meeting. Item 10 is in relation to the record of executive decisions detailed on pages 345 to 356 of your agenda pack. The leader will introduce this item and any questions will be answered by the leader unless she refers them to another member. I would remind councillors that they should ask questions on the decisions in the reports. All questions should be relevant to the decision itself. Should I feel that any preamble is unreasonably long, I will instruct councillors to ask their question immediately. Can members please note that once I have moved on, questions will not be accepted from previous pages. Councillor Shabina Khan, would you please introduce the item?
I'd be delighted to, Madam Mayor. I sort of know what's coming, so please let the questions commence.
Thank you. I will take each page in turn. Could members please refer to the title or reference number of the decision when asking a question? The first page is 345. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Skipsted.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the right. The adoption of the local plan. So during the election, there were announcements about the green backyard. Does that fall into that category? No? No, not yet. Okay, that's fine. Oh, the same document, but later on. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Right. No more. 346.
Fitzgerald.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
I'm just trying to determine, because they both seem to have the same, D and E seem to have the same number, but it's, different font, maybe a different spelling here. I want to know whose suggestion or recommendation it was to propose Wittering as an alternative site at this late stage in the proceedings.
Councillor Cave.
Yes, so before I hand it over to the Cabinet member, we had a number of workshops in which sites were looked at and members were invited to give their proposals on which site should be looked at. And it was as a result of that that the site of Wittering was proposed. Councillor Mohammed Farouk, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, so this is part of the local plan. We're including this consultation now because it's a major site. But to do it local plan, we're allowing that buffer, 10 to 15% or 20% that buffer. So whatever the delivery amount, in other words, 1,036 houses per year, this will have that buffer. And once the consultation and the views of all the residents have taken in, then some of these sites will be taken out and the final piece will be submitted to the inspectorate.
Did you want to come back?
If I may, I have attended the Wittering consultation, not because I wanted to stick my nose in, because I was asked to go by local residents who expressed a great deal of concern about the suggestion. And their fear is, so maybe you could, it's probably Councillor Farouk, that there's a suggestion from them that you're looking to remove Castor and Aylesworth from the site allocations as they're currently known and replace it with Wittering. Is that true?
No, we're not at this stage looking to remove anything. We are only here now at this stage to add all the sites possible for development. And then once all the views are taken in, I'll reiterate that point, all the views are taken in of the residents and which are most deliverable, we will then submit that to the local inspectorate. So some sites will be taken out at some point.
One further point, Madam Mayor, then. So it's put to me by residents that the Wittering site had previously been removed or thought not suitable or deliverable. What's changed was the question that I was asked.
All the sites have challenges. Different developers come forward with their land, and these are developers who have come forward with the land at Wittering, and we have to entertain that.
Thank you. Councillor Elsey, is the question about what we've just been talking about with Councillor Fitzgerald?
Madam Mayor. I echo the points raised by Councillor Fitzgerald because I also went to the public consultation and obviously it's my ward. I was told categorically earlier in the year that the site was unsuitable and that unless 5,000 houses could be built there, that a flyover was not viable and that without a flyover no houses could be built there. I'm told that it was put back in as a consequence of red flags being raised at Castor and Aylesworth and the potential for that not to be delivered. Yet they have one red flag for Castor Hanglands, which is a protected site but is open to the public and has car parks around it. And Wittering has 3 protected sites that are so protected because of wildlife and habitat that there is no public access to them whatsoever. There is also a gas main running straight through the village and the proposed development site. So I'm at a loss as to why it's now been put back in, because you're not suggesting the number of houses can substantiate a flyover, and I've been told categorically that the houses can't be built without the flyover, and for all the reasons that Castor has been, in inverted commas, dismissed, there are more red flags in Wittering than there are in Castor and Aylesworth.
Thank you. Councillor Clyme, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I do actually. I think that Councillor Elsey raises a valid point. I'll reiterate the points that Councillor Farouk has also said. And actually, if you look across we've also got Deeping Gate, which has special characteristics. We've got Castor and Aylesworth, under which also runs a gas pipe, not just in Wittering. You've got multiple landowners in Wittering, which poses its own challenges. But we are simply at the consultation stage. And actually, I've also been written to by Wittering Parish Council, and asked them and advised them to engage within the consultation. It is going to be a weigh up of all of those factors after those consultation responses come in, and then a decision will be made. So it's good that you've brought these matters up. I would also advise that you engage with the officers and engage in the consultation actively as well, so that those thoughts are resonated through. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Skipstead, is yours on 346? No. No. Okay. Any more? 347? No. 348? Oh. Councillor Asif Shahid?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just regarding the last item on the page, the relocating of the Dementia Resources Centre to Paston Farm, which is obviously great news. It mentions that excluding the boxing gym area. Now, as many of you know, the actual Paston Farm itself does host a number of other groups, as well as a thriving local cafe. Is the Dementia Centre a bolt-on to that, or is it instead of? Will the other services still be provided and other groups be able to host their groups there? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cam.
Yes, I do believe that this is actually a bolt-on. And in fact, when looking at the Paston Farm Community Centre, Councillor Shahid, it was stipulated that this will be a real opportunity from the Dementia Resource Centre. The Alzheimer's Society were taken in. They had a look at all the other community groups and organisations that they felt would enhance the services that they offer to their service users. So it's actually complementing what's there already, like the boxing gym. And actually, if you have a look at the research, there are many areas where you see young and the elderly mixed with each other that helps with their dementia conditions. So it is indeed an addition and not instead of some of those organisations that are already there.
Thank you. Any more? It's 349. No. 350. No. 351. 352. 353. Councillor Asif Shahid.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the disposal asset known as the New England Complex, now the decision was made 3 or 4 weeks ago by Cabinet regarding the Bharat Hindu Samaj, the site being sold to the highest bidder, basically. And at the time when the Cabinet decision was made, on 2 or 3 occasions it was mentioned that we would work with the Bharat Hindu Samaj occupants at the moment to ensure that they have alternative sites. Has any dialogue taken place as yet, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shahid. I think that's a really good question. Indeed, ongoing efforts have been made between our officers and the Bharat Hindu Samaj to engage and to support them as much as possible. And prior to the sale as well, in terms of being one of the parties that bid, they had an enormous amount of resource that was afforded to them, and that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. Since the decision is made, has there been any conversations as such with them? Was the question.
Councillor Graham.
So far, within the 2 weeks that the decision has been made, I can't substantiate that information without going back to the officers, but I'd be more than happy to gain a response from them and get back to you.
Lovely, thank you.
Councillor Gauthier.
Just following on from that, obviously I chaired the call in relation to that decision. I did send a follow-up email to the officer trying to get some feedback and clarification on some of the suggestions that we put forward. Unfortunately, I haven't had a response to that. I was just wondering if I will get one. I think for the sort of whole, obviously the decision's been made, but I think for scrutiny going forward, it's really important that these things are followed up on, and that it's the council is seen to be doing these things rather than just going through the motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cam. Yes.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I was going to call you Councillor Seeger. You're not Councillor Seeger. Garrity. Yes. Really important point made, actually. That was during the transitory phase between our previous monitoring officer and our now current legal officer. And we will pick that up if it's been missed or slipped. We've got to ensure that our scrutiny functions as scrutiny, and any recommendations that you have put forward, you get an adequate response to. We will ensure that that is followed up, and I will take that back as a task to officers to respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? 3, 5. Sorry, Councillor.
I would echo the thank you to the leader to follow up on those points, and also that the channels for communication with the community there and the BHS are formalised. I think there's been some debate as to who is engaged in those discussions, and again, it's just to get clarity on those 3 points. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cairn.
Thank you very much, Councillor Antunes. Indeed, we will take up the points that have been fed back by members today. I will say that the community has been suggested to meet with myself as the leader, and that is yet to happen. Although I would stress that, you know, the lawful process of disposal of this asset has taken place via the Independent Property Board. So whatever follow-up questions need to be answered, we will indeed provide those answers, and ensure that the process that entails after that of engagement with the tenants of the building is formalised and is above process, and in line with transparency as well.
Thank you. Any more 353? We'll move on. 354? No. 355? No. 356? No. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 11. Questions on the combined authority decisions made since the last meeting. Item 11 is in relation to the record of combined authority decisions made since the last meeting. I will refer any questions to the relevant combined authority representative. Otherwise, the same rules will apply as at the previous item. Members, these decisions can be found in your agenda packs at pages 357 to 374. I will take each meeting in turn, and members, please refer to the title of the decision when asking a question. First one. Funding Committee, Councillor Mohammed Jamil. This is pages 360 to 361. No. Second one, Transport Committee, Councillor Angus Ellis, page 362. Yep. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wiggins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Professor. It's Wiggin. There is only one of me, which is probably a relief to most members. You wouldn't want one of me going around. There could be three coming. Go on. My leader's distracting me. On the bus services, every item I see from the Combined Authority on bus services has lots of positive updates on everywhere apart from Peterborough. Are we ever going to get any bus services provided by the Combined Authority for Peterborough? We seem to be left out.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Councillor Wiggin. The answer is I really do hope so, and that is the reason why I have sent to every single councillor a consultation towards the bus franchising, which won't happen until around 2028. However, we need to be ready. When I first joined the Transport Committee, when I first became a cabinet member, it stuck out like a sore thumb that there was about 2 or 3 improvements proposed for Peterborough, loads and loads for the rest of Cambridgeshire. I don't want to see it like that again. So please do engage, do email, engage with your residents about what improvements they'd like to see. There's a range of examples in the email which is sent, but they're just examples. You can put forward other examples. We do want a robust offer and proposals going to the combined authority when they look at bus franchising. Whether they'll be able to cover off everything we ask for, I perhaps doubt it, because they're not putting any money towards it. There's no extra money. It's going to probably be bus franchising light, but let's try and get as much as we can for Peterborough out of it. So please, do. And it'd be nice to see, because a lot of transport committees I go to, like the one on the 14th of January, they're often talking about ceasing services, but we at that transport committee we decided we didn't want to see the number 13B, 19A, 117, 129 ceased. We voted against our recommendation. So please do respond to the consultation about what your residents would like to see to improve bus services in Peterborough in the future. Thank you, Councillor Wigan.
Councillor Wigan, all right? Thank you. Any more for that one? No, the next one is Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor John Howard. This is pages 364 to 365. No. Next one is Skills Committee, Councillor Katie Cole, pages 366 to 368. Councillor Ayres.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I asked at the previous meeting about the item of the FE cold spots, and I was told I would get information about it, and I haven't heard since, and so it's obviously continuing, and I wondered which cold spot or spots were being looked at.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you. Sorry, my Councillor Ayres sits on the side of my dodgy ear, so I couldn't hear her very well. Thank you, Councillor Ayres, about the FE cold spots. I will chase that up with the Skills Committee Democratic Service Officer, because I did request a response that could be sent to you, but I will follow that up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any more for that one? No, the next one is Growth Committee, Councillor Mohammed Farouk, pages 369 to 370. No. The last one is Combined Authority Board, Councillor Shabina Kayam, pages 371 to 374. Any questions? No. Thank you. Just turn over. We are now moving to reports to Council. Agenda item 12, report of the returning officer. The report of the returning officer can be found on pages 375 to 377 of the agenda. The recommendation is to note the result of the Fletton and Woodston by-election held on 12th of February 2026. Is this agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item 13, political balance, allocation of committee seats and appointments to committees. Members, please note that Appendix 2 to this report was circulated via a supplementary agenda yesterday, 24th of February. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I certainly do. Members, following changes to the membership of the Council, the Democratic Service Team has recalculated its political proportionality in line with legislation. The Council is required by law to appoint members to its committees and subcommittees in line with proportion of the total membership. The new proportionality is set out in Appendix 1 to the report, and the subsequent changes to the committee appointments required are set out in Appendix 2, which was circulated with the supplementary agenda. The relevant group leaders and non-group members were consulted as part of formulating the changes to the committee appointments. Council tonight is asked to note the changes to its political proportionality agree the allocation of committee seats and in accordance with proportionality, and approve the appointments to committees to comply with the new allocations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kay, and would you second the motion and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the motion. I don't want to speak. It changes every time.
Thank you. Does any member wish to begin debate? Agreed. All agreed? Councillor Jamil, have you got anything else to sum up?
Other than to congratulate Councillor O'Neill, as I forgot to do at the start. Other than that, no.
Thank you. Thank you. That is the end of tonight's formal meeting. I will take a 5-minute recess and then we will have to the informal mayor making. Oh, sorry. Minute recess. So. We're just going straight into it.
Please.
Okay.